Hey, buddy.
Having fun today, Julie?
I just did provider training all morning.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared, Isaac. I'm not gonna lie.
About what part scares you the most?
Well, I guess like they're only doing this 4 hours of training and some of the things that they're training them on aren't really relevant to what we're doing is one worry. Other worries are like we only ordered one power plan and it was barely like at the end when everyone was like anyways it just didn't seem like a lot of relevant stuff. They didn't practice ordering diagnostic imaging. I just worry
Oh
that
yeah.
like
This is
things
you
that they may.
attending the training.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
getcha.
attended it. I attended it like I'm a provider and it was I was a bit scared. Anywho, I'm a bit scared. They were like,
Yeah,
"Who's
there's
our
gonna be
super user? Who's gonna help us with this?" I'm like, "I don't know, me, I guess. Like, I don't know who your super user is, but
yeah, and did they even get into the more complicated stuff like delaying treatment
no.
or
We
yeah.
ordered one power plan and I was like, "Hey, why don't we talk about like what it looks like to order a power plan if we're at cycle 7 instead of at the beginning? Like,
Yeah.
what if I want to add a labs to something I've already ordered? Hey, how do I order a CT scan to the system?" Like they didn't do anything like that in terms of training, and so I just I'm scared. Yeah, like how to delay things, how to order something with a systemic component to it. We just ordered an oral drug only. I was like, I don't know, just thing. I just sorry,
Yeah. Job
sorry.
aids, I guess, and super users. But yeah, that's tricky.
Hi everyone. Sorry. Um, welcome. We did have quite a few action items from our last meeting. Um, and I don't know where if we want to go through kind of like the like what we had and what we were supposed to address and then go to our new action items. Is that how we want to move?
I think that'd be a great idea, even if I think for Andrew, I think a lot of our faults might be just we have to email Andrew and see where they are, because I know he had a big I was so glad he joined, but I know we sent
Don't know if he's
sent him
glad.
away with a little list of things to follow up
I
on.
I forgot of that we had all these questions that we still need answers to.
Yeah. It seems like it was a while ago because so much has happened in a week and a half still. But yeah, I think that's a
Just
great
more,
idea, Julie, to go through
just
that and then
more.
maybe our actions are just follow up with Andrew and see where some of those items are. Sorry, Rachel's got her hand up too.
No, that's okay. I was just, I caught, I think probably the tail end of the preliminary conversations that you and Julie were having. And it occurred to me that I hope you're keeping track, Julie, of the things that if you had the ability to provide input into training for the research teams, what what should be included in there.
I have a list. I did have a list because I know Andrew Robinson's doing a little bit of training himself, and I made a list of I want to talk to Andrew, and I said that to him. He's just back, but I want to like talk to him about some of the things I found that weren't touched upon that maybe he should revisit in his. I did make a list. I was madly writing while trying to see what was being offered in terms of training.
Well, and I see Greg is on the call, and I don't know that I know Greg, but I know Greg's name because Sarah Grin has graciously offered to work with Greg to help create some curriculum for the research coordinators and the training. I don't know if by the look on Greg's face he knew that or not yet, but
Oh no, it is. Yeah,
um,
I'm aware. It's been done. Regarding Julie, so regarding like items that you are concerned are not being covered in the training, yeah, please like let me
Oh,
know what that is. A lot of things that you might think are very special, very workflow specific might actually already be captured by existing materials that are either in progress or done.
hmm.
So please get that list to me soon, or well, I'll shoot you an email. We have a process for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, I know we had a really nice minutes. I'm sorry, I was kind of underprepared because I was at that training all morning, and then we want to go through the minutes of what we discussed last time and kind of some of the action items, the Q&As. Rachel was so kind to send out a very okay. Happy to share my screen. And maybe we've heard some things about some of these action items, and maybe we haven't. So the consent for research flag was the first one that we discussed. The fact that we weren't going to have it in the new system, and also that it was going to mean different things to different institutions depending on the opt-in or opt-out policy. So, Isaac, you did confirm that it doesn't exist. Oh, but yeah, the CR was, yeah, that's right. It was going to be.
Yes, although I don't think that's like, oh, a CR is going to be put in and that'll be ready for go live. I don't think that's the suggestion, but I think it's more like I think Shannon was going to put it in. Maybe this will be an optimization thing, but yeah, at the registration level, there's no consent for research flag in the meal.
Lisa?
Well, I'm wondering if maybe people will just have to go to the PCS to check to see if there's a flag there. So that'll be the process maybe until we sort this out, is go to PCS. And that's why I think it's also important that we have enough licenses available so people can do that. So until we can migrate that information over.
Well, and
And
I
then I
think
get-
I heard too, there's only about 50 people on that list. So it may actually be easier to have a list of those 50 who have opted out and versus licenses if that's all it is. But I think it's a very small list at this point.
And
The
I guess
challenge will be is that it may change.
Yeah, moving forward, how are we going to?
And the assumption from the privacy office, which I guess is something we can follow up with Andrew, is if we have a consult from Belleville who's never been here before, and they have what is their opt-in or opt-out system, but as long as we're seeing them in a KHSC, the assumption then is that if they haven't opted out, even though they don't have the option to opt in or out because it's no longer available in PCS, how do we deal with those new patients? I guess is the only other thing. We do get a lot of referrals from Belleville, so.
I guess you ask them. We'll just have to start asking at that point.
I think what my worry too was though is at what point are we able to enter the patient's chart, because we're asked to review the patients before we see them. So that's the concern I think with the privacy piece. If I guess then I mean again, it's an interpretation for Andrew to give us, but I mean, if an oncologist has said, I'm sending a patient to Kingston for a trial, I'm assuming they're intuitively giving their consent to for our team to look at their chart and to review their pathology and make sure that they're eligible before they come here. But that would be my worry.
It looked like it was being taken to a working group. I think we're definitely going to have to get privacy's stamp of what they want, because it's not just going to be oncology, it'll be other research, similar questions, right? And I think the action item said that it was going to another working group to discuss.
Yeah,
maybe we just need an update for that.
Yep. Is it on the REB? Like, I'm just trying to think of REB applications I've done in the past. Like, do you put like we will how you will identify patients for the study and screen them? Like, is that kind of a field that would be filled in?
Yeah. You don't go into the granular details though. Like you explain where you're recruiting and how the patients will be identified. And we do say that the first point of contact is the physician in the application. The thing too though is you're going into the patient chart to check, whether or not they've opted out. So you're going in and checking that.
So you're already in the chart.
Yeah, you're already into the chart before, like presumably the physician is supposed to be checking that as well, and giving you and letting you know that this person's okay and would like to be considered for a trial. But yeah, you're already in the chart.
So I guess to me, the only thing that's really changed is we don't have that flag, like the when do I open the chart, when am I circle of care? That's the same, like whether you open the chart in PCS or Lumio.
Right.
A referral from Belleville or something, like if that's what you used to do in PCS, to me that's what you can continue to do. If that's obviously been the approved process. I think that there's probably more worry because there's more auditing in Cerner than, or capability to audit access to records at least, but I think that could be, like, if we wanted to confirm, like Carrie said, like privacy working group could review that question. And then, yeah, we just need a workaround for that consent for research flag, which is going away. So I don't know if, like, those 50 people get a document uploaded to their chart that says this patient has waived consent for contact for research at KHSC, and future patients that also waive consent or do not want to be consented also get something uploaded to their chart in that way. But
And where is that going to be located so that everyone knows they should go there to look?
It
well,
doesn't right
that's
now.
purely hypothetical. Yeah, but it could be in documents, like it could be a scanned document. Maybe be the best way to go. But you're right. We would need to know what document name we're using, what kind of standard formatting. Maybe there's a form that can be scanned in that's consistent, but I don't know, I don't know what would work best, but we could direct people to something like that.
Again, we can, I guess, speak to Andrew about it.
You haven't heard any updates, Lisa, from Andrew about any of these issues? Okay.
No,
Because
I
the
haven't.
next one was a bit of the, similar, the records across organizations and privacy, and that was supposed, was on the agenda too, to see what the potential ramifications of us being able to see patients' data across the various institutions. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's on his plate. I did send him the confidentiality agreement, which was an action list for me.
Okay.
I see that there's another action item I had too.
Could we update that to say, like, to ask him where the data sharing agreement piece is between all the hospitals, if that was something that was negotiated and finalized, or if that's in progress still? Because that ties into that access to records kind of piece.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't just for, I mean, this was a working group predominantly for oncology, obviously, with our power trials, but I think this is like this session and the session we had last time is really specific to researchers across KHSC. So it's important for all researchers to kind of understand.
And I also think it came out of if you guys remember, it was a surprise to him that there wasn't a flag.
Right.
There was an understanding that in the early days, way before any of myself and Isaac were a part of this group, that something was demonstrated that gave the impression that there was a flag. And so since there isn't, that really changes this whole process. And I think it just needs to be driven from them. Like, what can we do? What are we allowed to do? Yeah, I really think it's more than just our little group making, like, we need to figure it out from them.
Yeah, and it really, like I said, it drives the point that even if we had the flag, what would they do with that flag, knowing that there's this variation across institutions about what that flag would mean. So if we're the only opt-in institution across, like, so I mean, it's a lot of important information. I think that's important to researchers here and elsewhere. Rachel?
I think it's important to remember that the flag isn't there right now. And so what that means is the flag is going to have to go in at some point. But when the flag goes in, they're going to take a regional approach because this is no longer a single site record. And so when that happens, it will be a consistent definition across the region.
Right.
So once it's in place, you'll have that resource, but at this point, it's not there. It's hopefully it's on an optimization list somewhere. But when those conversations happen, there'll be a consistent definition, so you'll know, are you an opt-in or an opt-out? And I suspect that the privacy team will help support taking a lead on that, and there'll be others involved because it will probably be the registration teams that are asking those questions at the point of registration, much like with the email addresses that are now being collected.
Yeah, I think that's for opt-in generally. For an opt-out, that wouldn't be required.
But
That's
they're
the point.
collecting email addresses for other things. So at the point of registration, patients will be asked for email addresses so that they have an email address on file. The opt-in, opt-out of research is a completely separate question. And if they opt in, then you could be provided that additional contact information.
Well, opt-in is you have to, yeah, opt-in is, so what you're saying is that there's this new approach where the registration clerks will be asking for an email.
So that'll be part of, I don't know if it's going to be at Go Live or shortly thereafter, but there is now the capability within Lumio to collect email addresses. And part of that is to help support the patient portal as well, I believe. Okay. So at some point, they'll be collecting that information as part of the normal registration process where they collect contact information. Totally separate from that is going to be whether or not they opt in or out of research, depending on what the structure of that question looks like from a regional approach. So once that happens, then if they opt in or opt out, then you know to remove them, but there'll be contact information available.
Okay, is the patient portal already, it's going to be ready for go live?
I don't know, Isaac, I don't know how much you know, but last I heard, a piece of it may be live at Go Live, but it won't be all in.
That's my understanding too. Or I actually thought I didn't think it was going to go live, so it's nice to know a piece of it will. But I'm pretty disconnected from that. So
yeah, and I'm a year out of being kind of really in touch with it, but that was the initial plan. I don't know if that's changed, and it may very well have given the timelines.
Steph?
So we had a discussion. I don't know if you were on the meeting, I don't know, a year or two ago with Lisa with registration, and they were very uncomfortable about asking like those questions about research at the time of registration. So I guess it's no surprise that this perhaps was missed. Anyway, I'm wondering though, like that kind of like conversation at registration is as a really important conversation to have, and whether or not, like, a lot of people will hear research and say no, not realizing that, participating in a clinical trial is also research, and the significant impact of saying no to that means that, like, potentially they're not approached for a life-changing cancer treatment that they don't yet know that they need. So, like, is there going to be more kind of conversation about those registration discussions, and are the clerks kind of the best suited for those conversations? Just worried about that.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that. So you're right about that. But also, just so you know, I know that Andrew is pro opt-out. That's what because he's already spoken with other research institutes who have had an opt-in, and it's very difficult to get enough participants, enough people to opt in to do research. So, his approach will be an opt-out. That's what he's going to be going for.
Which is great. Yeah, so I guess the takeaway from some of this is we've left these as things for Andrew to action on. It's a matter of, I guess, from this working group, who like I mean I think is it something the Research Institute will follow back up with Andrew to keep in touch with him about these privacy issues? Lisa, is that okay to like add to? Okay.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Andrew.
And then the last, or not maybe last, there was a couple more points. Research access. Rachel, there was nothing else. Sorry, you had your hand up, but we addressed it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I was. Oh, sorry, Rachel.
Oh, sorry.
I always forget there's two of us on this call. I was just gonna ask, are you talking when you say patient portal? Are you talking about like the Healthy Life patient portal?
Yes.
They are going live with um it's not very many. I think it's like 50 or 60 as like a trial. So it will not be fully ready to go at go live.
There we go. The next thing that we were discussing at the last meeting was the process for approving access to the system for researchers, internal and external. There was the talk about updating a CARF, I think, because there's, what did it need to be updated for our external monitors and the different systems that we need access to. I think there's, and it'll probably tie into our current agenda, but maybe even an idea of, is there different views that we should be requesting for research staff? And is that to do with a CARF? Because right now it's just PCS access, but if it's access to Lumio, is there different versions that should be updated? Rachel?
So what I understood is there's 3 buckets of access for research teams. One is the read-only. So for those who just need read-only access, they'll get a read-only security. The second would be for research coordinators, and there is a research coordinator profile and security. And the third is for research nurses, and they will receive I think it's the ambulatory nurse. There might be a couple that gets the inpatient nurse. But it's those 3. And so as people are onboarded, research teams, that's the information that the core Lumio team will need to know to be able to assign a security and create those permissions. Lumio is very different than Quadramed. So Quadramed, you can add pieces to desktops and you can, very much customize what a person has access to. Lumio is totally security and permission based. So when you give that individual that security, that's what they get, which is why it's important that we understand what that looks like. I don't know, and I look to Isaac, perhaps that can help us, is with those accesses. I know there's been questions around, will they be able to see SurgiNet and FirstNet, the ED system, because the research teams have indicated that they'll need access to that information as well.
I don't know off the top of my head, but that is definitely something we could follow up on with, I guess that would be with core, because yeah, I do have, and I know some questions came up about access last week as well. So I think we have a few access questions that are still outstanding. But I agree, yeah, it would be those 3 positions that folks would get. And there is a document that I had put together that kind of showed the differences between those positions. But I don't know, but yeah, SurgeonNet and FirstNet, I don't know off the top of my head.
Just want to, I think the CARF will be a good opportunity, like an updated one where we can put like a FirstNet, a couple of those things that they do need to have access to. I think generally speaking, to my knowledge, if you have a PCS account, you automatically get a Lumio account, which will be view only default. View only is default, that's it. And then if you need a coordinator profile, you have to come to the RI and basically make a request. Just like I approve the remote access, I would approve the coordinator access just by having conversations with them about what they do and making sure that it's appropriate. And then the nursing, it's more they're a registered nurse and they're doing clinical work. So again, we've really only approved one person, and that's Deb DeMerton.
I can definitely speak to you with the list I gave you, Lisa, but I was a bit worried with with when I watched this with what access the research coordinator had and had the ability, I mean, to order labs, to order diagnostics, and to order drug was a little bit. It was a bit concerning for me. I mean, I don't know what
They actually
research.
can't. They can't do it. That's not an act. They don't actually have that access. We've already talked about that with Sarah originally. That you have to be you can't place an order unless you're a clinician or a registered nurse. So they won't have that. I know initially it said that, but I don't think that's going to be actually part of the profile.
I think there's two pieces. So, and I had a discussion with Sarah late last week too. So like, and I think what I had mentioned to Sarah is like, you shouldn't do that like in the system, obviously. Like if you don't have the clinical scope to, because there was talk about, can we propose orders the way we used to? Can we give the doctor something to sign in the old world or something like that? Which I said like that's kind of a non-starter. I think that conversation happened early in this project. We had the same conversation in BC. If you couldn't propose orders based on your clinical scope before, like it's not something that you can do now, but technically like it does appear like there's just the way that position is built, like Julie is saying, you can place orders that go for co-signature, but I think there are some technical things we should do on that position to lock that down a bit. But you're totally right. Yeah, like they shouldn't be doing it, but I'm not sure how PCS worked if it was one access. Like, could you place an order, but you just knew you didn't because I don't order chemo in my current position, or was it?
We
We
didn't
got
do CPOE, so it's all on
Yeah.
paper. So you could write it all down, Isaac, and then at the very end, you slip it under somebody's pen and they sign it.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that's going to continue. But there maybe we've asked for like a suggested order or somewhere where they can write a suggested order where it's not an order, it's more like a note to, or whether that's in notes or that's in messages or whatever. Like if they need to get information to the attending, the one who's going to be placing the order, there's a way to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great workaround, or what we did as well, because we moved from paper in BC is they like the nurse coordinator who kind of knew, okay, well, this is what we need to do on this cycle, would either send an email and oh, make sure you choose TSH and T3 and T4 on this cycle because it's due, and make sure you order their every 8-week CT. So if you use Message Center for that, like, yeah, we definitely still need that coordination piece. It just can't be, like you said, it can't be through like proposing an order in the system.
Yeah. So the workaround would be the messaging center or whatever.
But currently you can, like currently the research coordinator position, you are able to, and not just propose, but you're sending an order for signature. I guess that was my.
So, Isaac, how do we do a CR? Who can do a CR to request that security be changed because they should not be able to place an order? There's nobody with this classification that would have the clinical designation to be able to place orders.
Robin and I can do that. I believe oncology does own that position. I'm sure that could get approved because, like you said, it's not, they really shouldn't have access. And yeah.
I mean, there was pieces of the training that was like were really neat, and I don't know where that fits. And maybe this is where this group talks about it. Like in doing that, it was nice to see Sarah's training. Like the fact that you could document in certain areas. Like I don't know if that is like if there's pieces of the research coordinators like that like how those decisions are made would be great. It's so hard because I've never signed on as a research coordinator, so that was the first time I'd really saw what it looked like and what the capabilities were. But I think like being able to discuss that as a group would be great to know like could we add in comments and document some things that we do, like we potentially do document, add comments about adverse events that we've noted or things like that that we could use the system for, I think would be great. I just don't, I just it's so hard. Like not we didn't like we I had no idea until last week what the research coordinator position was able to and not able to do. And then knowing that is going to be really helpful for like different various departments to then know what you need access, like what your access should be for the team members in your department. Because I sent you a very complicated list, Lisa, but um, like you were asking, like I want to be able to pull reports and see those things that like, reports and see, can I see what's it like provider list, like who's in what provider, today when I was looking at the provider profile, like, can I see who's in Dr. Booth's clinic, for example, on Thursday? Like, can I see those things and what do I have access to or not have access to? And how do we make decisions to tweak that or not tweak that when we haven't even, that was the first time that we had seen it.
So Julie, can I ask a question? And can you confirm? I couldn't tell, and I apologize. Have you logged in as the research coordinator yet?
No.
No. Do we know if that profile or that role has been created, Isaac? It is there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can share the maybe I'll just pull up. Sorry, please go ahead, but I'll just pull up the differences between the positions, if that helps.
Yeah, it's helpful, but I think for Julie to be able to log in under the generic profile will be helpful, because then she'll actually be able to see what it's going to look like for the research coordinators.
Like booking appointments, which ties into a whole other element, but I mean, booking appointments.
I think that needs to be removed.
Well,
because
some
really
researchers
only
would need to book their own, like I think they do book appointments to see themselves, not necessarily us, but my understanding is other researchers in the hospital may need to book
they're not
research only.
supposed to be booking. It's a unionized. So I dealt with this years ago when at a hotel because the people booking are unionized employees. You're Queens, and most of these research coordinators are Queens employees, so they should not be going in and booking. So it's
But
like
they're
you're gonna have to.
They're unionized here, but are they unionized across the entire region? Because remember, this profile will be used across the region. So it's kind of one of those pieces where just because it's there doesn't mean people should be using it. And then it becomes a training point for the pieces that they shouldn't be, for those points exactly at KHSC. You're totally agree. I just don't know what it looks like across the region. The one thing that would be standard is that nobody would have the clinical designation to place orders in this profile across the region.
Right. So I think it should be there, maybe even just restricting booking appointments until we've got that clarified. I have a question too, in terms of printing labels and printing from like current people can pretty well set up a printer and do that, like in their office. Often with researchers, they'll have an office or have a printer in their office that they do it to. So are there any restrictions on this, or, will they continue to just, path it to their printer in their office to be able to print labels and whatnot?
I believe so, but again, we haven't we have no access, so I have no idea. And it's a bit different than the barcoded labels that are being printed in clinics that, if it's a generic face sheet label, I'm assuming that we can still print the same way that we'll be able to print like CT scan reports and pathology reports and those type of things from, like, I'm hoping it's not just like it's print all, documents. Because it's not, can we print labels and documents? I've been, oh, it's not working.
Yeah,
Isaac.
well, I've said that they
works.
have to be able to print from the chart because they need it for their study files.
It's not working for reals.
Yeah. Robin, do you know if we as oncology own the research coordinator position? We can ask Mason, but
I don't believe we do.
okay.
I believe that's Oncology doesn't own it. Trials owns it.
Doesn't trials fall under oncology? Because oncology is the only one going live with trials.
I think it's a matter of opinion. We've kind of assumed responsibility because you didn't have proper Oracle people designated for trials.
I think either way, though, Isaac, it would still be our Lumio team, right? Because there's not another team. There's oncology and power trials combined. Laura, do you think that's correct?
Sorry, trying to find my button. Right now, because we were only going live with oncology trials, it got kind of combined with oncology. In the future, that's open for discussions. If they open up the power trials to non-oncology trials, then there will have to be some further discussions.
Is this related just to being able to print?
Well, how we
I
would
was talking
make
about
changes.
the position. Yeah.
Yeah, like how we
yeah.
can make changes to the position.
pro-
Who's responsible for making changes to these positions?
Okay. So who is then?
At this point, I believe position securities are owned by the Oracle consultant of the team that owns the position. So I don't believe, I think we would have to ask, but like, so under oncology, we own a few positions like nurse oncology, things like that. And I think what we're hearing is this one has fallen under oncology. They probably, I mean, probably the issue is what they have received from us is a DCW that had placing orders. I'm sure this was tested a couple of years ago and approved at some level by Lumio that this position was fine, but there are a couple of issues with it as we get deeper into things. In terms of next steps, I don't know what we could do. Robin, like I'm sure I'm not very confident that this would be an approved change request at this point, and probably what we would be told is that either people shouldn't be put in this position if they shouldn't be doing any of these things and have to go into view only, or we just need to police it by policy. Like if you know you aren't supposed to schedule, you don't schedule, and you don't place orders, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sorry, Robin.
That's my thought at this point, that we won't get anything through.
So I think it's probably worth an ask, only because there's significant patient risk and harm to patient with the ability for non-clinicians to place orders. So the other pieces, I totally agree with you. So the appointment booking, and if we want to look at the other pieces, there's no impact to patient care for those necessarily, but to have non-clinical folks with the ability to place orders, there's a potential risk to patient, which should make this a priority for change.
I agree with that, Rachel. I mean, I think at a minimum we should put it in as an issue, and it then comes out of our hands pretty quickly and goes to like the change advisory board and goes to Oracle and Lumio leadership, but at least we've brought it to the table to the right place and raised it as an issue. And if they say no, we're not going to change it, I don't know what else we could do, but I agree it should be, it's a significant enough issue that it should at least be put in.
Agree.
Who puts that in? What's the go forward for that? Is it only the CRs or only?
I can do it.
Okay. My worry too, I guess, in hearing people not getting their access because they haven't done the adequate training for the roles that they have in the system, I'm a bit worried. Like, is there any concern, and I don't know who would know this, that because we've had essentially no training documented other than the one that was put together by Sarah for various researchers, is there any concern that we research coordinators wouldn't have access because they haven't done any training? I mean, I would hope there almost was. Like, it's a bit scary to think that you're going to give access to a research coordinator with no training. But if
So
that's
hold that thought, Julie.
okay.
There was a meeting that happened today, and I put together a business plan for what training could look like for the research coordinators. So hang tight.
Okay. I mean, if we're gonna get rid of some of the, but we can't get rid of the. I just know that with the scheduling, like I was hearing that from scheduling, that you had to do an oncology scheduling training and this scheduling, and in order to get usernames and passwords to the systems to start with the backloading. So I was just, if that's part of the job description, I was just worried that that would also potentially hold up getting access to the system, depending on what they deem adequate training requirements.
So the research team, my understanding is, has fallen completely under the radar. The research coordinators were not included in numerator or denominator for any training. And so a lot of that, I think, is because power trials came on later in the build, and the team has been somewhat isolated and removed from other pieces. So it is what it is, and we just need to figure out what it looks like moving forward. But there has certainly been acknowledgement that we need a plan for the research coordinators to ensure, sorry, to ensure that at the time of go live, that clinical trials that are currently part of a patient's care are not impacted because of go live.
Fantastic.
I think that's
Julie?
like pretty interesting because we've been talking about training for a year now. like like a year ago we started talking about training and they sent along regional training to the cancer program, and it was flagged a year ago that there wasn't anything research specific. So just disappointing to hear that it still hasn't been addressed, but although it was flagged.
So I saw a document earlier this morning that Greg, I think, and I know he had to drop, but that Greg has drafted and put together. I know Sarah was working with Greg and Isaac to do that. So I, quite honestly, I haven't had a chance to have a look at it yet, but my initial impression from Sarah was it would be about a 90-minute session for the research coordinators. But I don't know what that looks like. And I think the first step is that we need to make sure that that profile and that security has actually been created, because we can create training for it. But if it's not been activated in the system, then we can't assign it to anybody.
I looked at the document that Sarah sent this morning, and it pretty well covers the things that we covered at that session last week. But it could be done. There could be some more details, I think, be fleshed out a little bit more descriptive. But it has a lot of the things that were covered.
So
So
what I
maybe
heard Greg say was that if there's pieces that aren't in there, that we would like added to let him know ASAP. So if Lisa and Julie, you have some suggestions of things that need to be included, I would certainly send them to him sooner than later so that he can adjust that document.
yeah, I'll send the document to Julie so she can have a look at it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different ball. Like when I was talking about training, I thought I didn't even realize we had the ability, I mean, to do documentation in the chart. So yeah, when we're documenting the chart, it'd be great to have training, printing, all those things. Yeah, I mean, it's a different, not realizing that there was different silos for what research access was, and that
Isaac and Carrie, question for the Lumio team and for Laura, and I don't know the answer, but if you could take it away. So a lot of the research teams, they don't necessarily lease equipment from KHSC, and I only know KHSC. I can't speak to the rest of the region, but it may be similar. And so I know with Quadramed, you can't print unless you're on the network. And so I don't know if there's, if IT and I mean, I can reach out and ask Shay too, but are you required to have KHSC printers to be able to print out of Lumio for the documentation, or could researchers that have purchased their own equipment, such as printers, as long as they're on the network, can they print out of Lumio?
I imagine that if they're on the network, there's an IP, there's an ITS number, all of that, that this is what I would hope that that's all set up and the device team would be handling that sort of thing for printing. That's definitely local. And I know like Olympus, you know, for keeping all of the devices, that's like another system. But when it comes to it, I know that there's a very rare situation where some people have like a USB. That's probably, I doubt that. But if they're on the network, I highly suspect it will be okay.
Okay. Thanks, Carrie.
Because Carrie, you have some contacts, do you have someone you could just validate that with quickly?
Yeah, I could ask.
Awesome. That'd be super great.
Robin?
In putting in this CR, what Cerner contact should I put this to? Should it be the security team? Should I just put Mason on it?
I hate to dump it on Mason, but I do think we, as oncology, are stuck owning this research coordinator position, are we not? And unless there's another team that owns the position, but like if it was with the nurse onc amb, it would be Mason. And I think for this position too, we own it. That's as far as I know. He might be able to tell us if we don't own it.
Okay. Thank you.
I put some more info in the chat, Robin. So I do think it forces co-signature, but that's still an active order, right? Like I ordered pembrolizumab as a research coordinator. It's sitting as a future order with the co-signature required, but I think you can still activate and give that order. Like, not that anyone's going to do that, but there's clearly some permissions that are off for that position.
Yeah, and I would just highlight that, Robin, when it's going in, that there is risk to patient, harm to patient. Because either if an order goes in and people think that because they have access to do it, so they can do it, and then it's assumed that that order is there and will be approved when it shouldn't be, then is somebody else who has the permissions and the scope of practice doing it a second time, who knows? And then the other is if it gets ordered inappropriately, and somebody happens to sign off it inadvertently, or who knows, at the time of go live when everybody's just learning, then there could very well be an impact to patient care. So
would you like it to go in as a high?
I would, yeah.
Thank you.
If we've got people that could order things that shouldn't order things, that's a really bad thing for patient care.
Isaac, do you know any more about the problems with printing reports from Lumio? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's there's a piece that's not built, so you print and then you choose a printing template, and the position just doesn't have any printing templates so you have the button to print, but then when you go, it says choose a print template, and there just aren't any built for the position.
Okay. It's not a Cerner problem. It's a positional problem with the research coordinator.
Exactly. Yeah, similar to this, although less patient safety. I don't know if we'd be able to get it pushed through at this point, but yeah, you can't print now. You have the button, but you can't actually print anything.
And so people need to be able to print.
Totally.
Like that's
I know,
critical.
but I don't know if we could, like, we can't say that's like a patient safety issue that the Oracle will fix for go live, I don't think.
That's a Health Canada regulation problem. Like they have to be able to print them so that monitors can come, Health Canada inspectors can come and see that.
But so I think what will happen is they'll say that another position's got to, like a clerk has got to print that for you or something. Like I know we need those documents, or HIM, like have to be requested from HIM. Obviously, like we will be able to fix it, but like, I mean, we're getting to the point where there's only like a week or two where they'll even let changes happen anymore, and it's just that one I think will. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure that that won't fly at this point, sadly.
Okay, so we need to have a plan, like who exactly is going to be printing it. We have to have that in stone so that we can say, this is what you need to do. So that's communicated properly to every single research team.
I don't think you're going to have that plan because it's going to look different in different places. So some are going to have unit clerks, some might have
Okay.
reg clerks, some might need
Yeah.
to go through him and request it through him. I actually suspect that many will need to go through him because reg clerks and unit clerks will be cognizant of the privacy breach
Well, how is it a privacy breach?
because they're not part of the circle of care and they're
Oh,
accessing and printing the chart.
Okay, yeah, them printing it. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, researchers are part of that circle. They have permission to do that.
Yeah, no, but if they can't print and they're asking somebody else to, you're asking somebody who's not part of that circle.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And just
Karen?
circling. Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. I was just going to circle back to answer your question, Rachel. I got the answer on the department-owned printers. They're fine. They've all been added to Olympus, and on top of that, apparently the documents coming outside of is done through like it's Windows printing, with the exception of the labels and the wristbands and that stuff. It's different, but again, I've been told that they have been added.
Thanks,
So if there is like an issue with one printer, that will just be sort of like how you normally go through help desk, but yes, they should all be set up.
Thanks, Carrie.
Okay, team. Anything else? What else is on our list or agenda item list of things to discuss today? I think it was just a QA after basically talking about the roles, the research roles. I think that was it for our topics. More takeaways, and I guess, and yeah, so Steph?
Yeah, was consent on your list on the prior meeting minutes? Consent scanning or printing? Was it?
Oh, like if for where patient consents are going, like if we're uploading them, or there was a.
And Lisa and I met with Rajan, so any consents are still paper because there's not the devices and the platform to be able to do electronic signatures at this point. So any consents for anything that requires a wet signature will be scanned. It stays at bedside in, I forget, a chartlet, I think Rajan called it, a chartlet. And everything's scanned at the point of discharge for inpatients, and then at the things, I presume things will be sent to records daily for outpatient activity.
So it'll be important to have a consent form at the bedside so that anyone treating them know that they have consented, and then eventually that consent form will get scanned. So maybe have an extra copy.
So she's willing to do that, to scan research, because she's never wanted to do that before, or she stopped wanting to offer that. It was just too much work. So we're scanning our own, where we were scanning our own consents into Quadramed.
My understanding is all things scanned are centralized at this point with him. Other centers are doing it differently, so other organizations are doing decentralized scanning, but the approach at KHSC has been to centralized scanning.
Yeah, Rajan's not necessarily happy about that, but she's agreed like she doesn't have a choice. It'll have to be done.
They're scanning all the consents. The consents to chemotherapy are still saying paper, so they're already consenting those consents for the cancer center. So it's just a matter of making sure she understands that our consents would need to be scanned too.
I think they all, and I looked to Isaac and Carrie and Laura and Robin, but I believe that labels or stickers will have to be put on them before they go down for scanning. So it makes it easier because from a scanning perspective, it picks up that barcode and is scanned in, I think.
Do we get a sense of where the documents will be scanned to?
Yeah, in the training, didn't you say we'll go in the documents, under documents?
Yeah.
It'll be labeled research consent or something like that.
Okay.
We should probably circle back, Julie, just because you or Lisa collecting the information around training. Can we just circle back with Regina and make sure that that's where it's going to go so that we make sure that that training document's accurate? I think you're bang on. I just can't remember because I know that's what Sarah said, but I don't know if Sarah did that with feedback from Regina or if it was just an assumption that it would go in the documents because it makes sense.
I agree. I'll check in with Roseanne and make sure that that's clarified.
And if you include us, then we can just make sure she's aware that it's going to come from the outpatient side of the cancer center as well, the consents.
Yeah, will do.
Sorry, Rachel, I missed your question. Had you asked about labeling and who would put the patient labels on, if like the documents need to go with a label to HIM or?
Well, no, I think they do. Don't they? Like anything scanned, any piece of paper now can't go down without a label. And that label, presumably, I can't remember what the setup looks like, but that label makes it much easier for scanning because it picks up the barcode and that directs it where it's actually going to scan to.
Yeah,
Is there a specific label that we need to print though? Like, because there's various different sizes and different information on each label. And when we used to do this for Quadramed, we would just print the smallest label possible that had the least amount of information, and we would label every single page. But yeah, it'd be helpful to know what label to select and print so that we can provide that pre-labeled document.
Which will also be a problem if they can't print.
Exactly.
We can print labels, maybe.
We can print labels,
Maybe.
yes. Just not any documents at
That's
all.
That's a win. To be positive.
The little things, eh?
Exactly.
Sorry. Super.
On a positive note, if they let us change it, it is a very simple change. I've already volunteered to help with it.
Aww.
Yeah, it was in one of our training courses. It's very, very simple. So
the CR, Robin, the CR 4974, that was for the securities to remove the ordering piece, correct?
That is correct.
And so what's do we now need to do another CR for printing? How does that get escalated?
Thank
you talking about permissions? Wouldn't it be a part of the same one?
No, I think that, well, we can't say it's a high patient safety issue to not print,
Right.
although it is important part of the workflow. I don't know if we enter CR or put it on our optimization list. I think a CR, we kind of know what's going to happen with that, and I feel like it would be more productive just to put it on our optimization list and deal with it as soon as possible after go live.
Yeah, I agree.
So who takes that away and puts it on optimization?
Well, interestingly enough, I don't have access to the optimization list. So I will send it to Diane as my point of contact and have her push it through.
And then Rachel, you've got that on the list of things for our follow-up meeting for next meeting.
I do.
You're awesome.
Just have a question about optimization because it feels like it's like a black hole that is happening sometime after go live, but we don't know. Does that mean like day one after go live? Does that mean a year after go live? Like people are going to want to know, oh, that's been pushed to optimization. So what does that mean? Like people want to know timeline.
I think realistically, it's minimum 6 months. There's a stabilization period that I think people forget we're going to be in that for the first, 3 months or more. But I think I'm sure, and there's going to be priorities with some optimization that need to be done like now, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I agree. It's really all a prioritization piece. Like it depends at the chaos at go live and where resources are and shuffling that list to who has capacity to work on things. And it's hard to say because some of these things are quick fixes, but if there's more emergent things that need to be dealt with, some of them will get pushed down. And I
guess
think
as long
everybody's
as-
lists are growing. Like I know a lot of people have got an optimization list separate from this big optimization list of the things they want to do.
Yeah, and I guess as long as we have a go around, like you're just gonna have to ask, I don't know. We got to figure out who the main players will be that can print. So it's like just please go there, like whether it's medical records or him, like call Rajan, call whoever, say I need this. I sometimes we print, we don't always print immediately, but we have a window of when we need to get our documents filed appropriately so that we don't forget, or if case they need to be reviewed and signed off, like literally signed off on paper, not clinically significant, and the date and the PI, that's what we need to usually do, is literally have a wet ink on that. Do you guys do wet ink oncology on your reports and stuff?
Not usually from PCS. Sometimes an ECG. That's the only thing we have a wet ink on. NCS or CS if we print an ECG from PCS.
Okay.
Can
Sometimes
we
I'll just
print a
file about
PD?
it.
Can we print a PDF from? No. Oh, you can't even.
No, I don't believe
Oh,
so.
okay. That was my
How are
fallback.
external documents? Like, are they PDFs in the system? Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah. The printing is not like PCS though. It's not the way we're used to, where we go in and there's like a file that I would go into Notepad and I would just say yes, and then you are able to print from PCS. This is Windows-based printing, so yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you.